Something has quietly broken in the way young men approach dating. Swipe culture, social media, highlight reels, rejection algorithms, and an endless stream of mixed signals have created a generation of men who are either emotionally paralyzed or completely reckless when it comes to relationships. The anxiety is real, the confusion is real, and the pain that comes from investing emotionally in someone who disappears overnight, that is absolutely real. But here is what most people are not telling young men. The tools to navigate all of this already exist. They are over 2,000 years old, and they were built precisely for moments of chaos, uncertainty, and emotional turbulence. Stoicism, the ancient Greek and Roman philosophy practiced by emperors, soldiers, and slaves alike, offers a remarkably practical framework for surviving and even thriving in the modern dating world. This is not about becoming cold or emotionally unavailable. It is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending you do not care. It is about developing the kind of inner strength that allows you to show up fully, handle rejection with grace, and build genuine connections without losing yourself in the process. The Stoics understood something that modern dating culture desperately needs to rediscover: that the quality of your inner world determines the quality of your outer experience. Before you can build something meaningful with another person, you have to build something solid within yourself. The foundational principle of Stoic philosophy is what ancient thinkers called the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers in history, taught that everything in life falls into one of two categories: things within our control and things outside of our control. Within our control are our thoughts, our judgments, our intentions, and our actions. Outside of our control is everything else: other people's feelings, their choices, their attraction levels, and whether or not they decide to text back. This single idea, when genuinely internalized, is absolutely transformative for young men navigating the modern dating landscape. Think about how much emotional energy gets wasted obsessing over things that were never in your control to begin with. You send a message and then spend 3 hours analyzing why she has not responded. You go on a great date and then spiral into anxiety, wondering if she liked you enough. You get rejected and spend weeks replaying every conversation trying to figure out what you did wrong. All of that mental suffering is rooted in trying to control outcomes that were never yours to control. What you can control is how you present yourself, how honest you are, how much effort you put into becoming a genuinely interesting and grounded person, and how you respond when things do not go the way you hoped. Shifting your focus from outcomes to inputs is not just philosophically sound, but it is psychologically liberating. When you stop measuring your worth by whether someone swipes right or agrees to a second date, you reclaim an enormous amount of personal power. You begin to show up in dating situations with a kind of calm confidence that is genuinely attractive, not because you are performing confidence, but because you have genuinely stopped tying your self-worth to external validation. Rejection is the part of dating that breaks most young men down, not because rejection itself is so devastating, but because of the story they tell themselves about what rejection means. The Stoics had a concept called amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who ruled one of the most powerful empires in history while privately journaling Stoic philosophy, wrote extensively about accepting not just the good that life brings, but the difficult and the painful as well. Amor fati does not mean pretending rejection does not sting. It means choosing to see every outcome, including the ones you did not want, as part of a larger process that is ultimately working in your favor. When someone is not interested in you, that is not a verdict on your value as a human being. It is simply information. It is the universe redirecting your energy toward something more compatible. The Stoic approach to rejection is to feel it, acknowledge it honestly, and then ask what it is teaching you. Did you communicate your intentions clearly? Were you genuinely yourself? Or were you performing a version of yourself you thought they wanted to see? Were you pursuing this person from a place of genuine interest or from a place of neediness and validation seeking? These are not questions designed to punish you. They are questions designed to make you better. Every rejection, when processed through a Stoic lens, becomes a form of data rather than a form of damage. Over time, this reframing fundamentally changes your relationship with the entire process of dating. You stop fearing rejection and start seeing it as a natural and even necessary part of finding genuine compatibility. One of the most radical things Stoicism asks of young men in the dating world is to completely redefine what they are actually chasing. Modern dating culture is almost entirely built around external validation, likes, matches, compliments, and the social status that comes from being seen with an attractive partner. The Stoics would look at all of this and ask a simple but devastating question. Is any of that actually making you a better person? The Stoic concept of virtue, which includes qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline, was considered the only true good. Everything else, including romantic success, physical appearance, and social approval, was classified as what the Stoics called a preferred indifferent, meaning it is fine to want these things, but your happiness and your identity should never depend on them. For young men, this reframing is genuinely powerful. Instead of asking, how do I get her to like me, the Stoic asks, who am I becoming through this process? Instead of optimizing for attraction, you optimize for character. And here is the fascinating paradox. When you genuinely commit to developing your character, your wisdom, your emotional intelligence, and your sense of purpose, you naturally become more attractive. Not because you are playing a game, but because people are instinctively drawn to individuals who have a strong, grounded sense of self. Virtue is not just philosophically superior to validation seeking, it is practically more effective. The Stoics were not emotionless robots. This is perhaps the biggest misconception about the philosophy. Marcus Aurelius grieved deeply. Seneca wrote with extraordinary emotional depth and vulnerability. Epictetus spoke passionately about love and human connection. What the Stoics practiced was not the suppression of emotion, but what they called emotional resilience, the ability to feel deeply without being controlled by what you feel. In the context of modern dating, this is an incredibly valuable skill. Young men today are often caught between two equally destructive extremes. On one end, there are men who are completely emotionally shut down, unable to be vulnerable or present in a relationship because they are terrified of being hurt. On the other end, there are men who become so emotionally dependent on a romantic interest that they lose all sense of self the moment things get uncertain. Stoicism offers a third path. It teaches you to be fully present in a connection, to genuinely invest, to care, to be vulnerable, while simultaneously maintaining your inner equilibrium. The Stoic practice of negative visualization, which involves briefly imagining the loss of something you value, is not a pessimistic exercise. It is a tool for appreciating what you have without becoming desperately attached to it. When you practice this in the context of dating, you learn to enjoy the connection in front of you without clinging to it so tightly that you suffocate it. You become the kind of partner who is warm, present, and genuinely engaged, but who also has a life, a purpose, and a sense of self that exists independently of any relationship. That combination of warmth and groundedness is not just emotionally healthy, it is the foundation of every genuinely fulfilling relationship that has ever existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote about what he called the inner citadel, an internal fortress of character and values that no external circumstance could penetrate or destroy. For young men navigating the chaos of modern dating, building this inner citadel is not optional, it is essential. The modern dating landscape will test you, it will confuse you, reject you, and occasionally make you feel completely invisible. But none of that has the power to define you unless you allow it to. Stoicism gives you the philosophical architecture to build something inside yourself that is genuinely unshakable. Start with clarity about your values. Know what you stand for before you walk into any romantic situation. Develop a daily practice of reflection. The Stoics journaled, meditated, and regularly examined their own thoughts and behaviors with radical honesty. Build a life that you are genuinely proud of, not as a strategy to attract someone, but because a meaningful life is its own reward. When you do all of this, something remarkable happens. You stop approaching dating from a place of scarcity and desperation, and you start approaching it from a place of genuine abundance and self-respect. You become someone who is choosing rather than someone who is hoping to be chosen. And that shift from passive hoping to active choosing is perhaps the most stoic and most powerful transformation a young man can make in his entire approach to love and connection.